Hello, welcome everybody. Whew. The music threw me, the video threw me there, but it is Friday. It is the crack. Petesy Carroll is here. Again, I will say, Maycee Barber has missed weight by zero point 0.5 of a pound for a main event tomorrow night with Aaron Blanchfield. Clash of personalities, clash of styles. We're looking forward to that one. Giles and Gustafsson apparently off as well. Mr. Gustafsson making his third attempt at a UFC debut. This time it's been taken away by an injury to Trevin Giles. Macy Chiasson and Caitlin Vieira has been moved to 145. And we've also got a weight miss from Mr. Nascimento, who is on the prelims of the card, Alan Nascimento against Jafal Filo. So a lot happening with the Apex card this weekend. We have to talk about a lot as well pertaining to the Ultimate Fighter. I got slated for having some criticisms of the longest running reality format in UFC history. 33 seasons, 20 years. They told me it was going to be special. They told me it was going to be important. I didn't really feel like it was either of those things. We have a bit of depressing news coming out about BJ Penn. We want to talk about that too. And we're going to talk about Jon Jones again. It's either Jon Jones or Ilya or Islam or Tom Aspinall every week here. And we're going to keep delivering on that front. And then, of course, we will talk about this Apex card as well. As I said at the top 3 or 4 times, I'm Petesy Carroll. This is the crack. Welcome, crackheads. We have beautiful, esteemed guests from Uncrowned this week. You know and love this man. His name is Ben Fowlkes. He has beautiful hair. He has beautiful glasses. And he has beautiful facial hair. Look at that face. Oh, my God. And we also have, now get ready for this. He's been here before. And he had a big background the first time he was here. But he's back again. Drake Riggs is in the house from Uncrowned as well. Look at that background. As I said to him on the lead up, he looks like the weekend at the Super Bowl there, and we're all here. We got there in the end. Lads, first of all, Ben, how enjoyable was it to watch me stumble through 3 different intros to this show just moments ago?
The music was on the verge of driving me insane, honestly, because it was super loud in my headphones, and I was just like, "Are we listening to like the 7 minute like Stairway to Heaven version of the intro music?" It just kept going and going, and then it restarted, and I was like, "Okay, this is a practical joke being played on me personally."
I had the band live in the bathroom downstairs. They just kept going. I thought it was great. Dad and my uncle's
They'll
out
do
there with
that.
the uilleann pipes. It was
You, you
incredible.
you get a few pints in them, they'll do that.
They might just start jumping in halfway through the show. They like to play. You know, what can we do? Drake, I mean, you are the man who has to be on top of all the news at Uncrowned. How much have we destroyed the website by having you on while all this news is breaking about this Apex card? Is Shaheen Al Shadi okay?
I think he's hanging in there the best that he can. On the Fridays, though, it's a been a slow start of the day for me, so I'm kind of catching up along with you guys. So I'm dropping the ball here, but definitely a lot of things going on, which is good because MMA's been a little bit slow lately. And I just got to say, though, you guys, before we really get into things, I mean this with no disrespect to the rest of our esteemed colleagues, but I think we have a very beautiful trio going on here. Maybe the most beautiful in Uncrowned. So I'm just gonna
Oh
throw
my
it out there.
Well, I mean, New York Rick is on the ones and twos today. He's going to destroy this whole show from here on out. He's going to start morphing our faces to make us look less beautiful. You can try all you want, mate. Look at this. You could cut diamonds off these fucking jaws. What are you going to do? Anyway, we have things to talk about. One being Maycee Barber missing this weight. As we said at the top, it's a big fight for the flyweights this weekend with Maycee and Aaron Blanchfield. Obviously, it's got the backdrop of the Apex, which is not going to add to the affair in any way, even though it's been a great investment. As I pointed out in that Ultimate Fighter article, come on, guys, give me some credit. You know what I mean? It's a nuanced article. Okay, we'll get into that later. But first of all, do we have an image, New York Rick, of Maycee Barber on the scales by any chance? From what I'm hearing, oh yes, that is a gaunt Maycee Barber right there. My
Wow.
word.
Kind of unrecognizable, honestly.
Honestly, yeah, look at the face. He is really sucked in there.
We sure that's her? Are we sure?
That is crazy, right? That is insane.
Former strawweight too.
Well,
See, this is the thing. Like, I don't know about you guys. Whenever you hear somebody missed weight by like half a pound, quarter of a pound, you always don't you kind of feel like, well, come on, you were so close. Like, get back in there. You can do it. You're almost there. Like you're gonna lose this much money over half a pound, over like a few ounces. Come on, you can do it. And then you see something like that, and you're like, okay, no, maybe you couldn't do it. Maybe that was the absolute lowest you could go before your body goes into total shock, and you end up
It's
on the ER waiting room floor.
it's like the Aldo thing, right? Like when we were talking about Aldo that week, yourself and Chuck were kind of like every time this happens, you're debating like, is this strategic in any way? I think it's safe to say that this was not one of the strategic ones, right, Drake?
No, and I mean, especially not for this main event when I'm not sure. I believe her claims of being right there for a title shot, as she said on Ariel's show, but like in terms of jumping Natalia Silva, like it's between them if she's to get the win here. Not anymore though. She kind of ruined that one by missing weight. That doesn't help any hopes of a title shot. As we've seen how that worked out for Arman Sarukian, who lost his entire fight and has to work his way back up. But a little bit different situations. But yeah, it's like the worst thing that Maycee could have had happen to her, especially before the fight. And, aside from a loss and what happens in the fight itself now.
Yeah, I can't help but go right back to that question I asked you when Aldo missed weight. Ben, what are you saying if you're Aaron Blanchfield's coach at this point? What are you saying to your fighter?
Well, I mean, anytime you come in there when you're dealing with somebody who's missed weight, you go, things didn't go great. Things didn't go exactly what they expected, right? So, I mean, you'll take the extra money if you can get it. Like that's nice. And then you kind of feel like you look, especially when they look that bad on the scale, you go, that's somebody who is going to have to fight me tomorrow night, and they don't look like they're feeling good right now. They look like they're suffering. And so they've got some time to pull it together, but they don't have a ton of time. And yeah, I think you've got to be feeling a little bit encouraged by that, especially if you're in a 5 round main event and you fight, if you get yourself into a longer fight, which let's be honest, a lot of the women's fights in this division do, they tend to go to the scorecards more often. Then you got to feel like, hey, if we get into some of those later rounds, she might not have it. That's something you want to keep in mind.
What do you reckon, Drake? Good thing for Blanchfield?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I kind of was thinking about this when breaking down the fight for our preview at Uncrowned. I don't think Maycee Barber has really ever had any cardio issues, but now we're going to see them really tested. That was alone the thought with the additional 2 rounds here for a 5 round fight. But now knowing that the weight cut did not go well and that she's not, wasn't looking too great up on the scale and everything that's transpired. Yeah, this should be, I don't know if you can get much more of a confidence booster than the stylistic clash for Blanchfield that they already have going in. So it's going to be a very big test on top of what it already was for Maycee, considering how relentless Erin is with her grappling and the disadvantages that Maycee might be in this matchup. So, I mean, I'm very curious to see how it plays. I'm even more curious to see how it plays out now if I wasn't already as the fight was and the building grudge match that we've had between them having to originally being scheduled to fight in 2021. And then here we are now with all this, like, it takes a hit to the confidence for Maycee. I'm sure she's probably not feeling so great mentally as well.
Yeah, and just as a striker too, right? Like that is, I feel like Blanchfield, she has withered people in there with a grappling offense. Maycee, obviously better known as a striker, a knockout artist, earlier in her UFC tenure as well. So Blanchfield, if she can impose her will on her, she will reap the rewards, you would assume. Gamrot and Klein is still on, our all-European affair. It's a fantastic fight. It should not be in the Apex, much like Blanchfield and Barber, but I'm happy to report that that one is okay. And as much as Aaron Blanchfield might be feeling some kind of way, Alexander Gustafsson, who has come all the way from Sweden to Las Vegas for this fight, attempting his third UFC debut, Trevin Giles has pulled a bit of an Arman Sarukian. He is not well enough. He has an injury this late in the day, has cost the fight. It is, I believe, the third time Alexander Gustafsson has gone to make his debut. He has a lot of hype in Sweden, a lot of hype in Scandinavia. He has come up through the regional circuit in the most extreme of ways. He has been in Cage Warriors, KSW. Usually you have one of these paths. This guy has been down them all. He's 11-2. Oh, we would have loved to see him make his debut this weekend. That is not going to happen. Maycee Chiasson and Caitlin Vera must have agreed to go to 145 I don't have any information here in front of me. Just shout if you guys do. But that fight was supposed to happen at bantamweight. It is now happening at 145. And then, of course, as I said at the top as well, Alan Nascimento has missed weight for his fight with Jafal Filo, which is to be contested at flyweight. It's yeah, it's not ideal, you would say. But it's a big fight at the Apex, guys. I mean,
Good old
nothing gets
Apex.
my blood. It's look, I don't want to keep shitting on it, but it's so fucking hard to get excited, man. Like I just, you just want to get some UFC, shove it in your face at the weekend. The crowd. When you're fucking staying up till 6 o'clock in the morning, you need a crowd there. You need some energy in the room to keep you awake. These Apex cards, I swore off them last year. I said I'm giving them up, but I find myself just coming back to them every time. Like a jilted lover waiting at the door with a box of chocolates and some withered flowers. Please let me back in, UFC Apex. And it always does, boys. It always lets me in. And I go to bed at 6:30 and Elaine says, what the fuck were you watching till this time? And I say, nothing. And I slink into bed and I wasted another weekend of my life. Sorry, go ahead.
Why can't you? Can you not just wait until Sunday morning and like get up? Because it's like
It is Sunday morning.
yeah, most of this card would happen while you would normally be sleeping if you're following like your normal sleeping schedule. So it's not like you'd even have to work to avoid spoilers because you'll be unconscious. You can just wake up, pour yourself a cup of coffee, tea. I'm sure you're having a cup of tea over there.
The slander every time.
Sit down at the kitchen table. You don't have to do anything. Just open up the laptop right away. First thing you do, you can watch the fights, and you'll be rested. You'll be looking after your health. You'll be keeping things maybe on a more even keel in your relationship. It seems like I've solved a problem for you, and yet you won't accept this help I'm trying to give you, Pete.
Ben, the incentive I don't think is there for a non-live Apex show. That's the only allure maybe that it will have, especially for Petesy at that time. I mean, that's a big ask still.
I mean, you get to skip through all the filler. You know how much filler there is on these UFC fight nights. Like, we're throwing it back to the desk. We're going.
I like Mitzi Betts, okay? Mitzi Betts is the highlight of the show for me.
We're throwing in all kind of ads, like now here's an ad for like the UFC's magical amulet.
No, not a whole lot of ads. It's about 3.
Oh, that's okay. It's the same 3 over and over and over again. Like, there's a better way to live. And especially it's like if you're not on the duty where you have to be there, like monitoring it live or like writing up results immediately after it's over, why do this to yourself? Well, it's fine in the morning. You can watch it in a much shorter time period without spoilers. It's all the same to you. What's stopping you?
Oh, I think what's stopping me is, right, if I wait for the morning, then Elaine's going to be awake at the same time and witness me watching an Apex card, which could challenge our relationship even further. You know what I mean? She's like, do you want to, come on, it's Sunday morning. Let's go down to the market's on. We'll go to the market. We'll bring the dog. And I'm just like, I can't. The Apex happened last night. This way I can hide in the corner. It's like watching porn as a teenager. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You know what I mean? You're just you shuffled away in the corner, like no one can see you, hoping nobody comes down the stairs. You're like, turn it off. What are you watching? Sky Sports News. Something.
You're just over there being like, I can't go out and live my life now because Ketlin Vieira and Maycee Chasson is about to start. Like, obviously, you see the bind I'm in. Yeah, I get it.
That's 2 porn references in 1 week.
I was going to say a little bit of blue, a little bit of porn in the corner.
I don't know how it just cracked me up so much that just the Americans have never heard of blue, a bit of blue. It's fantastic.
We've
phrase.
heard that. I've heard that.
Oh, there you go. It's a generational thing, Ben. These young kids, they didn't get it all.
You never heard of a comic working blue? It's like,
That's what Rick said. Rick got it, in fairness. Ariel's way too pure. You know what I mean? He doesn't know anything about blue. Let's talk about TUF, boys. As much as I want to keep on talking about the Apex, TUF, in fairness, filmed at the Apex, so we're staying at a similar theme. First of all, Chael Sonnen, Daniel Cormier, great coaches. They kept me in there. There's a guy from Ireland as well, Andreas Binder, was on the show, picked last, unfortunately. So I was there with a bit of intrigue. That was pretty much all of the intrigue, in fairness. It was a great intro. I mean, got my blood going. We're going right back to the Fatherless Bastard season 1. One of the,
what a way to describe it.
One of the great redundant insults in all of MMA history. is when Bobby Southworth called Chris Lieben a fatherless bastard.
It's the highlight of Bobby Southworth's MMA career.
Yeah.
But they had it all there. They didn't have the line, so that's why I gave a nod to Bobby, a legend in my eyes. They had the montage, and then we went into like another montage of famous moments. You know, I believe McGregor had just told Chandler he'd do what he was told and pushed him. There was that moment. There was the door moment. Rampage just with the door, just and it goes all around him. And then, there's all these moments. And then it just turned into every other episode of The Ultimate Fighter. And, at this point, I'm kind of like, I know we've had this conversation before. I'm not like, this is no new ground. I'm not like exploring new lands by like going, I don't think this show is all it's cracked up to be anymore. But my God, I was looking at the last season. There's no even finale anymore. Do you remember they used to get the finale?
Yeah.
So everyone would get a second, they get a second go at it. Apparently that's gone since 2018. Now it's just like a couple of guys will get signed. And I'm like, I looked up the stats. Last season on the Contender Series, 43 people got contracts. That's 4 contracts a night going out on a Tuesday from Dana White's Contender Series. And then we have the lock-in Tuesday for The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, it feels to me like it's completely gone. Fair play to Chael and DC. They kept it interesting. There was a bit of shit talking at one stage when they were facing the guys off for their fight. And Cormier's guy, they're doing the, ooh, vamo, hey, all this stuff. And then Chael Sonnen takes his fighter after he comes off the scales. He's like, I really don't like when guys are disrespectful like that. And I'm like, Chael Sonnen saying this. My God.
Like, wait a
He's
minute.
unbelievable. What a guy. I mean, Chael's just endlessly entertaining, in fairness. But a lot of guys have been telling me I'm a bit of a prick for saying this. Peter, do you know what? Every fight they put on is a treasure to us. How dare you, okay? The stories behind these guys, you just don't care. You don't care about these fighters' journeys before they get into the ultimate proving ground, okay? Where only one man can leave, and you are a scumbag for not liking the Ultimate Fighter. Drake, am I a scumbag?
I mean, I don't know if those are in the same vein. There might be an entirely different question to answer there, Petesy. Now, but man, it really is fascinating, the whole Ultimate Fighter in 2025 experiment, right? Like, it feels like they're doing it just because they can do it at this point. Because I will say, I like what they did with the idea of the coaches, right? That's one thing that this season has got right. That's probably the biggest thing, if we're going to be totally honest, was having 2 fighters involved with the season who are not going to be held up by the season, which has been a lot of the big qualms, I think, with it, aside from all the other things we'll get into here, with the Ultimate Fighter in this day and age, is that it, delays all these great fights that we want to see. But then you have these 2 guys who not only are they great personalities, but they're former coaches. They've been on the show before, have great banter, great synergy. They have their own podcast, all these things. I mean, in this case, it's very, very specific and unique, and I think works great. I think with Chael and DC, that was a home run in terms of the idea of the coaches. And if they keep the show going, which I'm sure they will, keep doing it this way. Keep doing it this way. But as for the entire rest of the concept of the Ultimate Fighter, it could not work any less, I don't think, in this day and age when MMA is completely, entirely monopolized by the UFC. And there's no, we already get them all from the Contender Series, like you were saying, Pete. Like, having both of these does not work for the UFC. Like, it completely has destroyed what is left of TUF in terms of actually finding worthwhile prospects and talent, I would say, in my opinion. It's I don't know how you fix it other than maybe go back to the comeback seasons. Like, those were fun back at 25? Was that the last one with Jesse Taylor? That was a great season. I thought that was phenomenal. We know what happened to Jesse Taylor afterwards. Didn't quite work out. Great story at the time, but like, I think that's the best vehicle kind of approach to go with it. They're not doing that, but we're gonna keep running this until we can't anymore, boys.
I know Ben disagrees. Ben, a huge TUF fan. Sorry that you had to hear all this, Ben, but please tell us how you feel.
I haven't watched it since the heavyweight season.
Wow.
Where Brock Lesnar kept saying how you got to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. It was like a phrase.
That was season 12, Ben. Come on.
Yeah. And you know what? I watched every season up until that. So I watched 12 straight seasons. And by that point, I was just like, okay, it's the same thing. It's just the same thing over and over again. And so like I think I agree that doing it this way with the coaches who are retired fighters who actually have an interest in coaching, they both will have coached just like separately in other aspects of their lives. So having those guys, that's a good choice. We're not holding up a champion, we're not holding up a
Yeah.
division in order to do this fight. Um, you also have like Chael Sonnen, he knows his job at this point. Like his job is to be an entertainer, is to say interesting things, to be funny, and to be charismatic, and he's great at that. He's better at that than basically anybody else in MMA. And so I think that that's a smart choice to have those guys as the coaches. The problem for the show is that it doesn't have any stakes anymore. Because like what we said with the Contender Series, you get everything from the Contender Series that you get from the Ultimate Fighter, but you get it quicker. Like if a guy has an inspiring personal story, they'll tell that in the video montage before he fights. If we're waiting to see, hey, is this guy good enough? Is he going to earn a spot in the UFC? We'll get that by the end of the night. We don't have to sit through like a weekly episode, weeks in a row, trying to find out who gets the UFC and who doesn't. And so you're doing all that much better with the Contender Series and with more respect for our time. And so it's like, what are you doing with the show at that point? Especially because it's like, if you've watched enough seasons of this show at this point, you just feel like I've lived in that house. Like I feel like I've been there. I've been through all that stuff that just because like I've endured it as a viewer and it doesn't really change. Like nothing is happening on any of these seasons that hasn't ever happened before. And it used to be like when they did the first one, and even though the stakes in that one were a little bit of a lie, where it was just like, hey, one winner from each weight class gets a six-figure UFC contract. And the way they let it you
Oh
to
yeah.
believe it was that you have all these guys from like regional shows elsewhere in the world. They're all coming together, but we're only taking one from each weight class. That's the way they made it sound. And it was like a life-changing amount of money is also how they made it sound at the time. And instead, almost everybody at least got a shot to fight in the UFC. The six-figure contract was paid out over the length of the contract, so it was like a potential for six figures, but it did change people's lives. The people who came off that first season, they were somebody like Forrest Griffin and Diego Sanchez. They both entered the UFC as somebody because of the stakes of that show. And now a guy will show up and if he'll fight in the UFC, fight on an undercard somewhere, and you'll look at his Wikipedia page and be like, oh shit, this guy won the Ultimate Fighter 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really mean anything to people anymore. And so like your question of like how are you roping people in? Like what's the drama? What's the appeal of this show? It just doesn't exist anymore. And I think the reason they just keep doing it is because it's good, cheap, easy content that they can rely on. Like the fact that it doesn't change, I think the UFC sees that as a feature and not a bug because it's easy. It's just painting by numbers. We're just plugging in the stuff, churning out the episodes. They get like some low level viewership. It doesn't matter. It's all content for the content mill, and they don't really care if people are watching or not.
You make a great point here about just in terms of those contracts as well. Like, make no mistake about it. This is a factory for entry level contracts for the UFC, as is Contender Series. It's something that obviously when we talk about fighter pay, the people who are hit the worst by this are the people on the entry level deals, which I believe are about 12 and 12 will be your first fight. Now that means you can fight, gear your whole life towards making it to the UFC for 10 years. You'll finally make it there. You lose two fights, you've earned 24,000 and it's over. That has happened to a number of people I know. The contracts that Ben spoke about there, the Ultimate Fighter ones, the early ones, I can remember several guys from the UK and Irish scenes getting those contracts and being in serious, serious trouble very, very quickly, given the amount they had to put into their careers and the lead up to it. But that's another massive plus for the UFC, right? Like you have guys contesting for a very, very low amount of money. Ultimate Fighter, in fact, they were the worst ones notoriously back in the day because it was a 10-fight deal you'd sign. I can remember people coming out of that like 10 fights. That was your six figures, 10 grand a fight. That is a crazy, crazy situation for a company that's worth 20 billion, I think now at the moment. Obviously it's probably a factor into why they are worth 20 billion as well, to be honest. But one thing I was thinking about when I watched it, and you can ask me, you can tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong, lads. Is there an element to it like when the first season came out, and I can remember watching it and being so intrigued, um, because we never really got that access before. We don't know how it looks. We,
Yeah.
you know, we had limited amount of views into like these guys' lives, and such a crazy sport to see the first time you see it, right? Like we probably been watching Pride, we've been watching the UFC, but we never had this kind of focus. These guys living together, and I think there's a bit of that at play as well. Like this was once like an underground thing. This was I compared to like punk rock. When I was talking about in the article, like you felt like you were part of like an anti-establishment thing. Nearly, you were an outsider. You weren't quite sport. It wasn't quite entertainment. It was out on its own thing, and we're getting this magnifying glass put on it. But like that kind of fades away when there's been 33 seasons. The US president now goes to all of the events. You know, he's at every event. You have Hollywood actors competing for time on camera there. You know, every NFL star wants to be at the UFC, everything like that. Like, is there an element here of it's just got too big? It's way too visible for this kind of package to be interesting at this stage, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and I didn't even really think about that. But just the social media explosion over the 20 years since that first that first season, and how easily accessible just everybody's lives are now, and it is smarter for these fighters to let the people get to know them before an opportunity like this presents itself, right? You should be doing that all the time in this day and age. Give yourself the max amount of exposure because you have that option to, and it will lead to better possible opportunities and all these things. And it's just, I think that oversaturation too of like we get all these, Apex events and things every week. It's the same thing. You're getting so much of it. Some of the stories, they're going to be pretty similar. So again, there's that interest just with the general person who, again, with the exposure of not just fighting, but everything that is out there now, it takes away from it in an overall element, I think. And this was something I was thinking about too, just going back to a little bit of a side note here, Pete, when you mentioned like how the finale and stuff isn't even a special thing anymore. That dawned on me too about how like there used to be whole events built around the finale. Remember that? Like
Yeah.
they don't even do that anymore to make it feel as special as it can. And there's no reason not to, again, considering the schedule. So it is, it's just fascinating.
Is that a nod to like the waning interest, do you think? The fact that there is no event? Like they know that all these people aren't tuning in the way they were in previous seasons. Like there was a live season once. There was
Yeah.
they did everything.
One and
like,
done. Only
yeah.
one.
Yeah, I suppose. Not to say that was a massive success, but is that a nod to like a lack of interest? Do you think, Ben, like the fact that there is no finale, like we aren't investing in these guys' careers?
Yeah, we're not doing the big presentations of the cut glass trophy that we build
Yeah.
to all night, and we're gonna give you a motorcycle or a car. Like we're doing all that. I do think there's something to what Drake said also, that I remember when the first season of TUF came out, and one of the really exciting things about it was you're gonna get to see a fight at the end of the episode, like one fight, one MMA fight on free TV, on like cable TV. And that was special at the time because you didn't get to see MMA anywhere. Basically, like it was only pay-per-views. And if you wanted to go find like a bar showing the pay-per-views, you had to really hunt for one, or you had to go in with your friends on it. And to be able to know like, hey, I'll tune in once a week and I will get to see one MMA fight was special because they were hard to come by. It was hard to get to see these fights. And that right there was enough. Even if we started to feel like some of the stuff in the episode was a really boilerplate reality TV drama kind of stuff, it was still worth it to sit through, 40 minutes of that to get to where you'd get to see a fight. Now it's not special at all. There's so many fights. I mean, if you follow the Grabaka Hitman over on
I was
Twitter,
just going to say,
there are
go to his
fights
page.
happening somewhere in the Eurasian continent, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There's always somebody fighting somebody else. And the idea that like, hey, we're going to sit here and watch this entire thing just so we get to see one fight among people who we might not necessarily know that well going into it, that's just doesn't have the same appeal anymore at all.
Yeah, it's also like it's important. Like we've already kind of mentioned why it still makes a lot of sense for the UFC, but like particularly when they're coming up in this broadcast deal, it's on that one sheet they're giving guys, right? Like we have the Ultimate Fighter as well. That can go somewhere, and many people.
I don't know if people want that one though, man. Like that's
It's a deterrent.
Yeah, like that's like add-on content, I guess, where you're just like, oh, we could, like if you have a streaming service that just needs some stuff on the shelves in the library, we have this. But I don't know if anybody's like, we got to get this thing because look, people don't watch it. People don't care anymore.
But they are gonna still pitch it, right? Like they're gonna be
Oh,
like,
sure. They're going to pitch that power slap too. I'm guarantee you there's been a
I was
conversation
gonna say.
where Dana White is telling somebody, I could also throw in power slap. And they're like, could we pay more and you keep power slap? People don't want that.
more views than every major sport. Power slap, of course. Not disrespect the slap on my show, okay? I know some people don't like it, but it's got some merit.
I'll watch
Believe
that rugby thing where the two big guys just run at each other
Oh,
before I
jeez.
watch the power slap.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is, but I'm already in.
Oh
It's
boy.
like,
Wait. We'll just wait. We'll send you
sounds
some clips.
fantastic. A bit more serious news, unfortunately. Ben wrote this piece earlier in the week for Uncrowned on BJ Penn, and look, we've been talking about this probably for the last few months. It become obvious that the situation had emerged between BJ and his family, and we now know that the mother of former UFC champion BJ Penn has successfully filed for a restraining order against the Hall of Fame fighter. I'm reading from Ben's article on Uncrowned. She told the court she believes her son suffers from a rare psychological disorder known as Capgras syndrome. Ben, tough stuff to write about. Like one of the great legends of our sport, one of the great icons. This is something that, as I said, we've been aware of for some time in terms of a complaint BJ had about his family. Obviously, quite a bizarre situation where he thinks the identity of his family has been stolen, and these people are acting as his family now. And yeah, I mean, a very tough read in your article on Uncrowned. Are you shocked that it's come to this with BJ? Because I feel like there has been a lot of signs that it was going to go this way with him.
Yeah, I mean, it has been troubling to look at from the outside for months now. Like if you look at his social media, if you follow his Instagram or anything, some of the videos he posts, like he has on there a where he is videoing a conversation that he's having with his mom, where she's trying to kind of bring him back to reality, and he's just like, "You're not even my mom. You're not even really who you say you are. Like you're an imposter. You're not this real person." And you're just like, that's a real stark break with reality. And I had never heard of this syndrome before his mom, Lorraine Shin, mentioned it in her application for the or in her request for the restraining order. And she said, I believe my son suffers from this syndrome. And if you go and you look it up and you read about it on like the Cleveland Clinic website, uh, you read the symptoms of that disorder, that delusion, that syndrome, and you go, yeah, that sounds like it. That sounds like exactly what he's been displaying, like where you cannot be convinced that it usually happens with people with regards to family members, loved ones, often like people who are dealing with some kind of neurodegenerative disorder like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, where they have like one or a couple close like caregivers who they see every day, and sometimes they will become convinced that those caregivers are like it's an imposter posing as that person, that maybe they've killed that person or replaced that person. And he seems to have seized on it like somebody has killed my family, they're imposters and they're trying to steal my family's like assets essentially. And he's really fixated on that. And the thing is, when you read about this, there's not a whole lot known about it. It's not a very common disorder for people to have, but the causes of it, or the things that they think might be causes of it, it's not like there's one thing. There's several different possibilities, but one of them is traumatic brain injury. And when anytime we're dealing with somebody who's been in a contact sport where they've definitely suffered some head trauma over the years, you have to consider that possibility that there's some kind of psychiatric disorder, and here's somebody who his profession for pretty much his entire adult life involved getting hit in the head. And so you got to think that there's a possibility that might be part of it. But the other thing about this disorder, when you read on it, is everybody kind of agrees it does not just go away on its own. It's not something that's just going to clear up one day. You need treatment for this, and you probably need some sort of antipsychotic medication. And the thing that seems so troubling about it now, you see the trajectory he seems to be on, is you're just wondering, how is he going to get any help? Because he doesn't seem like he's willing to let anybody help him. And when you have this sort of like unfalsifiable delusion where you're convinced that everybody around you is imposters, if somebody comes to you, whether they're a close friend, whether you've known them for years, and they say like, "Hey, I'm worried about you. Let me help you get some treatment here," then you just become convinced that that person is an imposter. And one of the things they say with this is like, don't try to sit there and convince somebody. It doesn't work. It only makes them more agitated. And so you wonder, what's it going to take for him to get some kind of help if he is really resisting the help? And if it doesn't happen, if the help doesn't arrive in some form, then it seems like he's just headed down like a dark road where there's wherever this goes, it's not going to be anywhere good.
Yeah, it's sobering stuff, you know. Obviously, BJ was on a big losing streak. I think 2019 that street fight footage came up, and Dana effective excuse me, Dana White effectively said like, look, we can't promote this anymore. You know, he's getting himself in situations like this, and this is 6 years later now. And as Ben has put in the article here, there is there is some very significant things that BJ's mother is reporting here. From the article, I'll read again. In Shin's request for a restraining order, she alleges a disturbing pattern of behavior from Penn. After returning from a trip earlier this month, Shin said she noticed many of her belongings, such as clothes, shoes, jewelry, personal items, and even her bed had all been removed from her bedroom. Shin filed a police report after Penn denied taking the items. She said, and a few days later, her purse with my driver's license, credit card, and locks from my safe were also stolen. She said she then put up security cameras inside and outside the home while also installing a deadbolt lock on her bedroom door. According to Shin, Penn also took down or tampered with cameras and also put glue into my deadbolts that stopped me from opening my bedroom door. Shin claimed Penn then stole her mail and aggressively shined a flashlight in her face on the night of May 25th when confronted. In order to prevent her from calling the police, Shin claimed Penn grabbed my arms and shoved me against the four-door grey sedan, which I felt a sharp pain in my back, resulting in her screaming for Penn's younger brother Regan to come help. Penn was ultimately arrested in order to stay away from his mother for 48 hours. However, Shin claimed she caught Penn breaking into her home again the following day. As a result, Penn was again arrested for violating the police order. Yeah, very, very troubling stuff from an absolute legend in BJ Penn. And I think that's like one of the interesting things about this. Like I saw the video where he's lying on the bed, he's about to be arrested. I think I think most people think that when a fighter is suffering from um, a degenerative brain issue stemming from contact and things like that, they will slur their words. BJ is not slurring his words. He is speaking quite clearly as far as I can see. And very, very troubling stuff. And look, I know I was on this show only last week pushing for GFL and Tony Ferguson and Dylan Dennis, but this kind of thing has you really, really reevaluate what we should be seeing in the sport. And that was obviously me a bit tongue in cheek talking about that, but this is very, very serious stuff, Drake.
Yeah, no, it's like horrifically sad to see it. I mean, before it even got to this point was obviously very concerning and worrying, some of the things that were being said and where BJ's career obviously had gone. And yeah, it makes you think and hope that it doesn't get any worse. But like Ben said, in these kind of cases, what is it going to take? Because just telling somebody will then lead to, same thing happening with them, and it's just so on and so forth. And you can only really hope for the best. I don't know what you do in that situation, but it's not let them fight. I think that's the the best case, and thankfully for BJ, hasn't been any more fighting, at least that we've seen, or professionally or anything like that. So, yeah, it's concerning, man, especially like with the GFL in particular, like you were saying. I mean, we already had the inclusions or mentions of possible other worrying situations with like a Fabricio Verdum or a Vanderlei Silva, who have been on record and with their own things going on. So, I think we can only hope that people take it more seriously when it comes to letting fighters who maybe rack up, losing streaks and damage and, get older, that we should maybe not let them continue to take brain damage and shots to the head and things like that. And in some cases, obviously, we've seen people take care of that, but I think it will still take just more time with this sport in terms of MMA, at least. Obviously, I think boxing older than MMA, but yeah, there's still, I guess, we have to see these examples firsthand, unfortunately, sometimes, but you really can just hope for the best in this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can go and check out that article on Uncrowned now. One of the things to move on to a topic which has dominated this show since it started, pretty much. Um, Lads, there's more news with Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones, and it's not good. I'm not going to lie to you. Jon Jones was on a barber's podcast, I believe it was. His name is, hang on, I wrote this down somewhere. Give me two
Not
seconds.
Maycee Barber.
No, not Maycee Barber, different barber. I'm
Kiki
talking
Barber? We're talking Tiki Barber?
Not Tiki Barber either.
Rondé.
God damn it. His name is Vic Blends, okay, guys? God damn it. His name is Vic Blends. I don't know if you actually saw this. Did you see Tom and Craig Jones reenacting the moped incident? Ben,
Yeah.
we talked about the
I
moped
heard
incident.
about it. I haven't seen this.
Now, PC, I need to ask an expert from the other side of the pond. Would you say that that's an instance of taking the piss? Are they
That is
taking the piss with that one?
That is pure, unadulterated piss taking right there. That is.
I saw it and I was like, this feels like taking the piss, but I don't know. I'm not the one
Not
to say.
qualified.
absolute taking the piss. Might borderline shithousery. You might be shithousing at
Oh,
this
wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll try and clarify with the Aspinall family what they were aiming for there, but you're either extreme piss taking or you're dipping your toe into shithousery at that point.
Is
But
shithousery just like a more extreme version of piss taking? Or is it
Yeah,
just
where's
like
the
more
line?
aggressive?
piss taking's all in good fun.
Oh, okay.
Shithousing, like you're being a bit of a bollocks now. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
You're fucking, you know what I mean? Oh, here we go.
Oh, here it is.
Great, get off.
Sorry, it's a Jones thing, Tom.
I think that after reviewing the footage, I think it's piss taking. I think
Yeah,
it's
feels like
true
some
piss
piss
taking. Just before we get into this, lads, Jones interviewed by Barber Vic Blends. I've written down here. I know you're all wondering. It's Vic Blends. Quite an online following. Does Vic Blends he has during his Thai adventure. Here's a shorter version of the quote. I'll go with this one. I don't know what life holds as far as fighting. I have a lot more options than a lot of other fighters as far as the ability to leave and return. Ooh,
Okay, I mean, he's not necessarily wrong about that he could just be like, I'm taking the next 2 years off or something. And then if he says, hey, I want back in, the UFC would be like, sure, absolutely, we'll book you a fight. But he does seem to be acting like he is immune to the effects of time, right? Like he is not a young man in fighting terms at this point. He's getting into his late 30s. And we also know that it's not exactly like he's been out here living the cleanest lifestyle at all times. So that'll age you a little faster. I speak from experience. It'll age you just a little bit faster. And so it does make you wonder, like, if he's taken that into account. Because honestly, if you were going to fight Tom Aspinall, I would think you'd want to do it sooner rather than waiting around, being out of the gym, off gallivanting on motorbikes and out enjoying Thailand. I would think that you'd want to do it when like you're kind of at least closer to the athletic prime and fresher and closer like to your last fight, so that you're not letting all the skills get rusty. Because it's like we saw Jon Jones, he beat Stipe Miocic, a 40-something semi-retired firefighter who'd been out of action himself a long time. Stipe looked pretty old in that fight. Jon didn't exactly look like he has not lost anything. Like he still looked good, but he didn't look like prime Jon Jones anymore, and he hasn't for a little while. And you got to think that that's only going to continue. Like if you're thinking, hey, I don't need to do this now, I can come back and do it later. Later's going to be worse, probably. At least if you're thinking at all about fighting Tom Aspinall, he might be thinking, I'll wait and I'll pick a spot against somebody, some hand-picked opponent. 2 years from now, I can call my shot and say I'd like to fight this guy, and there's a good chance the UFC will say yes, and he's probably right about that. But if you go out still avoiding this Tom Aspinall fight, people are not going to forget that.
yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's just how exhausted are you? How many articles have you wrote about this, Drake? Would you say like different?
Oh boy,
updates? Like,
jeez, I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't tell you. But it's fascinating though, because I think Ben makes a great point there, and I was thinking about to springboard off it, like that's also a lack of a motivational thing, right? Like the longer it goes on and just how he's acted about the whole thing, there's really no reason to believe that he would return to that prime version unless something really woke him up. But I did think about this hypothetical scenario too the other day, you guys. Like Jon's been going on about how he really doesn't care about, Tom and doing this whole thing. He doesn't need it, right? My legacy doesn't need it. It's all cement and everything. Then if I was Jon Jones, and this is just me, this is me taking the piss. If I was Jon Jones here, I would agree to the fight. Don't prepare at all. Don't do anything. Fight night comes, to give us the instant tap, Jon. If you really don't care,
Wow.
hit the instant tap. You want to be the ultimate troll? There it is.
pure contempt for everything at that stage. Just
Well, you know,
fuck it.
I saw like these comments.
That won't happen because he very clearly cares. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, he does. I saw these comments from Chael Sonnen where he was saying, you know, this fight, as there's been all this like anticipation and this sort of like will he, won't he around Jon Jones for this fight, but it's been going on so long and has seemed so frustrating. Where he was like, this fight is not getting bigger as this kind of feeling builds among the fan base. It's getting smaller. People are exhausted of it. People just like, they care less and less, to the point where like if the UFC announced something now and they were like November, we're doing this fight, don't you think the one part of the reaction would be like, okay, fine, finally, you know, like I don't think it would be like, yes, we got, because it just, you put us through this ringer for nothing. And I think that you're just wearing people out. And it gets to a point where people are just like right now, like when you look at the petition to strip Jon Jones of the title, that's people just being like, let's move on. We're tired of the discussion.
Yeah, that's people, like, in fairness, I never thought about that. That's people that are like, yeah, I don't want to fucking see that fight anymore. I just want something to happen. I just want something to happen at this stage.
I don't know about that. I think once like it got closer to it, then everything would go away. At first, it would be like, all right, fine. But then, you know, Goldfish Brain MMA fans would be like, all right, sweet, we're getting to the fight. It's fight week. Let's go.
Yeah, they just need one clip of Jones like saying something like, that's when I took it personally or something. And it's like, oh my God, I think he's going to kill Tom Aspinall. One thing that's kind of funny to me about this, and there is lots of funny things about this, including the motorbike situation, the smelling of the hair, which is just so Jon Jones. He's actually a genius. Like, he's a trolling mastermind. I don't even think he meant to be honest. It's just he's so good at, like, you can catch him at any time and he'll get someone, you know what I mean? But he reminds me of when I was in college and some of the girls we hung out with started to go to Thailand in the summer. And they'd come home with this completely new perspective on life. And they're like, you know, you felt like a subhuman because you hadn't gone off and island hopped around the place. He's like, have you tried the food out there? Oh, that's not real Thai food. I've had real Thai food. They charge you $2 for full meals. Like, he's gone full on.
Oh,
He's
man.
out experimenting, obviously, based on the hair sniffing thing. And he's just like, you know what? I could live here forever. And you're like, mate, you're 40. You've done this 20 years too late, but I fucking love it, you know? Fair play, John.
Some study abroad kid coming back talking about how this isn't as good as the one I had in Ibiza. And you just go back, you know?
I need to go back.
You know, I feel like I could really become a Buddhist. Like, I'm waiting for him to
Right.
Oh, fucking hell. I am actually, like, that didn't occur to me, Ben, until you said that now. I am fucking so there with this. Like, this is my, like fight of the year. Like, in January, I'm like, oh, I just want this so badly. Then Ilya and Islam obviously comes on. I'm like, I nearly want that as much as I want the one I want so badly. And then, of course, yeah, neither of them are happening now, but I'm just like, yeah, fucking just do something, you know? There's heavyweights that just need to pay their bills at this stage. You know what I mean? What is, you know, if Den of Thieves hadn't come along, like, Cyril Gane is having a light in the ass year, you know what I mean?
Okay, I saw have you seen the trailer for he's starring in one, like, a French language, like, action film, I believe it's called KO. And somebody sent me the trailer, and they sent me the English dubbed version. I'm like, if I'm gonna watch this on Netflix, I'm gonna watch the French version with the subtitles and everything. But he's like the star in that one. And, you know, since it's dubbed, it's hard to get a sense of his acting chops. But when you watch it and you look at him, you're like, he looks the part, man. He does not look at all out of place. If you didn't know, you wouldn't be like, this guy is not an actor. This guy is an athlete who has been given an acting role. Like, you just look at it and you're like, Cyril Gane might actually have a career at that. And you know what we've seen, anytime like a fighter kind of sniffs a life of Hollywood acting roles, they always, from, you know, Rampage Jackson to John L. Sullivan, are all kind of like, this is actually a lot easier work. I would like to just do this now because, you know, no one's hitting me in the head and I'm getting paid more.
So that's Jones and Gane off the table for Tom
You
Aspinall.
might lose Gane if you're not careful.
Fucking hell, boys.
Tough times at heavyweight. My God.
I thought Volkov bet Gane in that fight. I thought he beat him. Maybe we could
Oh,
just
yeah.
push him in there. So,
You're gonna
I was
mess
there for
around
that
and
one.
You're gonna lose Cyril Gane to like an Othello remake or something, and then you're gonna wish you'd made more of these fights when you had a chance.
Oh, fucking Rico Verhoeven on him. I saw them in Den of Thieves too. I saw the trailer for that one. That same thing. Like two handsome boys. Like they can pull this kind of stuff off. Fair play to them. But yeah, it's not a good time. It's becoming increasingly frustrating. I can only imagine being one of like the dad or actual Tom Aspinall at this point and just being like, this is fucking. I don't know. He said as much, I think, in that interview with Mighty Mouse that he's just fucking completely over it at this stage. Wants to move on. 31-year-old guy wants to fight. Let's see what happens. I genuinely think, and I said this on Ariel's show, I think he's gonna fight someone else, be it Gan, Volkov, or whoever else doesn't get an acting deal, and then Jones is gonna be like, I just saw that fight, and I think I can do something.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you guys with me on that one? He'll be back
Yeah, I
now?
mean, I think that like when he sees how quickly people would move on at this point, like if the UFC was like, all right, we're done, we're taking that title off him, Tom Aspinall versus TBD in November for the unified heavyweight title, and people would be like, okay, cool. And I think once Jon Jones saw how quickly everybody else just shifted their focus to that and stopped talking about him, he would not like that. Because as much as he's like out there on Twitter being like, you think I care about being stripped? Like, yeah, I think you care a lot about what people think, like legacy. Like that's been his whole thing. Like why he wanted that Stipe fight in the first place. He cares a lot about what the MMA world thinks about him and says about him. And then if they just sort of turned away and were focused on the next stuff in the heavyweight division, I don't think it would take that long before he would decide like, wait a minute, I want the attention back now. It just seems like the window of opportunity to really capitalize on that is not going to last forever. You know, he's kind of living like he can decide whenever he wants, just come right back and you'll still be the same guy, and you won't. Like no matter who you are, we've seen that time eventually catches up to you.
Can you imagine if he decided to go back to light heavyweight? Before that, he's like, you know what? I am coming back, you guys, but I want the belt that I got first. I want it back.
I don't think he's in a
Big
weight
Unk,
losing.
you're pissing me off.
I mean, you see the way he's living right now? Does that look like a guy who's in a hurry to lose a bunch
Definitely
of weight?
not. Definitely not.
But as he said, you know, you can eat all those meals, $2 over there, losing all that weight, those beautiful ingredients that Thai people use. Get into my Buddhism. Doing some stretches at 6 a.m. every morning gets the body flowing and passing the food a lot quicker. That will be the next tweet. Vitor Belfort in the Hall of Fame. Before we go, Ben, I know this was announced a while ago. You had an article about it during the week, and I thought it was very good, framing it around how would Michael Bisping feel about this. Of course, Michael Bisping has talked about that in a weird way where he's like, this guy's a disgrace. But fair play to him. You deserve this.
Well, yeah. And honestly, I thought, you know, Bisping's reaction was everything kind of I thought it would be, where he's gonna do some Bisping stuff in there. You know, he's for years, and he's got a right to. Nobody has more of a right to feel a certain type of way about Vitor Belfort and that whole thing than Michael Bisping, who lost an eye. And you could argue, sure, like this is a dangerous sport. We're hitting each other in the head. We're trying to hurt each other. So that can always happen to you. Could have happened to you against anybody. So, and that's absolutely true. But for years now, he's been sort of in the mode where he practically spit on the floor every time Vitor Belfort's name gets mentioned. And you think, all right, you know, you came by that feeling honestly, but then he's also aware enough and like honest enough as sort of a commentator on the sport to be like, he does deserve the honor though when you look at the breadth of his career. And especially we have such a weird relationship to it in this sport, because it's one thing to look at the guy and be like, okay, we know he failed drug tests in the past. We know he was abusing the TRT stuff. You know, we suspected it for a while just by looking at the guy when he showed up and suddenly looked like an action figure. And we were all like, at right around the same time the TRT stuff was exploding, the UFC was keeping him in Brazil, acting like, no, we're not going to have him come back and fight in Vegas. Brazil loves him. And, you know, we're looking at the muscles coming out of the guy's ears. Like, we kind of knew what was going on there, even if no one was saying it. And then they went and just emailed his like lab results to a bunch of people that they shouldn't have. He like took all the doubt right out of it. So that was a hilarious chapter, by the way, in the UFC media relations. But that's a complicated legacy kind of to have. But it also came during an era where there were a lot of those complicated legacies rolling around, and a lot of guys where there were suspicions, even if they never got caught. A lot of guys who did get caught had, somewhat acceptable excuses or less so in other people's case. Like there's a whole, like if you're going to go through and be like, no one can get in the UFC Hall of Fame that has any sort of like known past with performance enhancing drug use, it's going to be thin. That Hall of Fame is not going to be able to maintain a new entrant every summer at the ceremony the way they want to. So it's like, you got to kind of allow for that. And to me, Bisping brought up with Vitor Belfort, where he was like, he was a 2-division champion, heavyweight, light heavyweight, almost got the middleweight title, closest thing we've had to a 3-division champion, which sure, that's true. But to me, his championships are not the most impressive thing about it. Cause it's like, he won the heavyweight tournament back in like the late 90s when,
he was 12.
Yeah, you showed up and you knew some jujitsu and you were a good athlete and you were probably going to win. And then he had a cup of coffee with a light heavyweight belt after his glove grazed Randy Couture's eye, and then he gave it right back in the rematch. So like those aren't the most impressive things to me. The most impressive thing is that guy was fighting in the UFC in the late 90s when it was a completely different thing, had completely different ownership. It was just a wild, wild version of what it became. And then he was still around when the UFC was on Fox, when the UFC had like a network TV deal, and he was in title contention at that time. Just being around and being that good for that long, living that many lives in that many different bodies in this sport, that to me is what really is like the accomplishment for Vitor.
Drake, what do you reckon? I agree with what Ben's saying. I think he absolutely deserves this, but I don't know what it is, right? When I see this stuff and I know a guy has like melted a few tests, like I know, like as Ben said, if we're gonna start like crossing out anyone who's done this, a lot of things go missing in MMA very quickly. But at the same time, there's somewhere inside me like, I should feel some kind of way about this. And every other sport feels some kind of way about this, I guess. Like, do you have any kind of similar feelings in that regard when this happens?
No, yeah, totally. It's weird, man, because I've been a fan of the sport for like half my life now, which just makes me feel very old to say that. But thinking about like from the beginning to now, I used to care about the test failures and whatnot a lot more, and I still do. I still do to a certain extent for sure, but it kind of falls in line with the same thought of like, do they disqualify you from greatest of all time talk? Like Hall of Fame and greatest of all time, putting it into this perspective of like, all right, how much does that impact it with the usage? You look at the time, all of these things, like for a long time, and I still think I kind of feel this way. It's like, we can separate them, all right? If you are fine with the test failures and steroid use, whatever it may be, then anything goes. What is your list for that? Or you can take it away. And how do you feel in that sense, and kind of separate the two? At this point, I'm caring a lot less about it, but it's I think that's kind of the way you have to look at Vitor, is the fact that the longevity and what he was able to do for that amount of time throughout the generations. But like, it is still very hard to look past, the asterisk there of well, I mean, this guy is like, I don't want to say the poster boy, but he's one of them. He's one of the guys where you think about the MMA dictionary for TRT and test failures.
He brought down the whole TRT thing, honestly. Like, I mean, we kind of owe him a thank you for that, because the TRT era was ridiculous. It was one of the many eras MMA has had where I was like, I'm glad this is not more mainstream, because if the rest of the sports world found out what we were doing over here, that we're like letting guys come in with a doctor's note, like, I need steroids, and they're like, okay.
And you just have to miss a night's sleep, right? Like, Ben, like to get that, like,
I mean, there's all kind of ways to game that, and that was insane. That was ridiculous that we were doing that for as long as we were. And Vitor was the one who really helped. Like, his case was so obvious where people could look at him and be like, that guy looks like a cartoon character, like the muscles and stuff that he has. And you're telling us like that's just a guy getting himself to normal testosterone levels. There's no way. It was so visually impossible to avoid, because it was like when it was Dan Henderson and Chael Sonnen, you could look at them with their shirts off and be like, okay, like, you tell me they're getting to normal testosterone levels? Maybe. Like, neither one of them, looks like a He-Man, and neither one of them is going out there and just crushing skulls the way Vitor was. And so it was like he forced the issue to where people couldn't really ignore it and couldn't pretend that this wasn't happening right in front of their faces. And he sort of ruined the party there for a whole lot of other people who are like, I would like to get on some of that stuff. It looks fun. It looks like people are enjoying it. And then when he was just clearly, out of his mind on it, people were like, okay, we got to stop this. It's getting completely out of hand. But like that, he definitely was kind of the poster boy for that era. But again, if you start taking guys off the list, Anderson Silva, killed the drug.
Yep.
Jon Jones.
Yep.
Brock Lesnar with his foot cream, all these kind of like.
I want me some of that foot cream. That's all I'm saying. Get me some of that shit, boys. Fuck.
Brock knows a guy. He knows a guy.
He knows several guys.
Can I throw a hypothetical at you real quick, you guys? What do you think would have happened in the Weidman fight with Vitor if it was just a little bit earlier? Just a little bit earlier.
Well, yeah, when he showed up to fight Weidman, he looked like a completely different person.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like his body looked completely different because the TRT era had ended.
Was that the birth of the side-by-side shots, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? It was
No.
just for years. It was like, here he is, TRT. Here he is, a worthless 40-year-old man. That was...
That was where that all came from. But I mean, it's tough to say because at the time, Weidman seemed like a freight train from hell who was going to go through everybody, right? So it was just like, it was not hard to believe like he would have beat Vitor either way, but he sure trucked him really easily when he was the non-TRT version, which honestly doesn't help the appearance of things for Vitor either. Because it'd be like if Barry Bonds showed up one day, his hat has gone back to normal size. He's lost 60 pounds of muscle and he's getting, struck out by 40-year-old knuckleballers. People would be like, okay, it was all everything special came out of a vial,
It's, like the craziest thing about Vitor for me was like he was learning like wild techniques at his age. Like he was pulling off taekwondo
spinning wheel kicks and shit.
Wheel kicks and shit.
God.
Like, just exploding out and spiraling around. Like,
and how about this? Like, again, I mean, you guys tell me, but I think it's crazy that I can't think of a time where I've heard about somebody losing an eyeball, just period, and it coincidentally happened to, in this case, it's just kind of crazy.
And
not that I can remember. Am I forgetting one?
Several more years without the use of the eye, and became a champion.
Man. He's a hard bastard, dude. Like he's so like fucking Bisping's career act is absolutely insane. I remember like Irish people like weren't really on board with Bisping for a long time. Yeah. And that night I was in an apartment. I was renting an apartment at the time, and my friends came over to watch Bisping and Rockhold, and it was like this non-event. They're like, oh, what's gonna happen here. And when Bisping did that, like you could hear like all around this apartment blocks, just lads losing their minds. Yeah! So I was like, what the fuck? He's become us. He's become us. It's absolutely fantastic. Lads, I've had a wonderful time talking to you today on a weekend that didn't offer a lot. I think we have delivered an amazing show. That's right, crackheads. I've said it. And I didn't even look at the comments. I invited you all here to talk some shit in the comments. Haven't looked at them. Won't look at them. Damn, I'll see these ones. Okay, all right, fair enough.
Great timer.
God damn it, Rick. Fuck. Okay. This card has fallen apart.
Well,
the sky is falling.
Wonderful.
All caps too. That was in all caps. I mean, in fairness, like what did it fall apart from? It's like if you go to McDonald's to get a hamburger and you ask for a cheeseburger and they leave off the cheese and you're like, okay, you've made it worse, but it wasn't great to begin with.
Losing your mind. There's no fucking cheese on this thing. Man. The card. All right, hang on. Did you see your Irish man Shia Dubbin? What? Shia Dubbin get dub in one? No,
I'll assume not.
I don't know who that is. If I'm going to be honest with you.
You got to be careful of the fake names, Petesy. You know, be careful reading those. Sometimes they'll get you.
Was that a fake one? What?
I don't think so.
Bring it back up, Rick. I want to see who that was. What did they try and get me with?
No, that's a real person.
All right.
But you could convince me that half of the Irish names are fake names.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Or at least fake pronunciations. When I see them, how they're spelled out, and I'm like, there's no way that's pronounced that way.
I've seen lads in a pub have an argument about how an Irish name was pronounced because like there's all different dialects of the language. So Brendan Loughnane, his name would be pronounced 4 different ways in Ireland, depending on where you are. So he's like, he like grew up in Manchester. He has Irish family, obviously. He's been told like, why do you pronounce it like this? It should be like this. He's like, he gets asked like, how do you pronounce your name when he's in Ireland? He's like, I don't actually fucking know. So whatever you want, just go with me.
Give it a
No,
shot.
just go. Fuck's sake. Do we have anything else there? Oh shit. That Drake guy looks like that Jon Jones guy who became famous from Twitter when they shit on Jones.
I have never got that one before. Wow.
Drake Riggs is fucking like facially right. I get it, but Riggs here is in sublime shape. The man,
it's the facial hair. You guys, I think, are doing something similar. That guy, I did a story on him, back when that was kind of like first starting to happen to him and everything. Nice guy, interesting guy, had an interesting life.
Doesn't he have like a real high profile job or something, like a crazy, like
he was a game designer or something?
Yeah, he was a video game designer. Yeah, nice guy.
Every time something pops off, you'll see the tweet from him again. I don't know if he left Twitter, X, whatever it is now.
I mean, you could only take so much of that, couldn't you? It was, especially, it's like, it'd be one thing if you were out here and your name happened to be Robbie Lawler. And, every once in a while people would be like, Robbie Lawler is a monster. Robbie Lawler is so great. And you'd just be like, it's not me. You're tagging the wrong guy. Whatever. But it's Jon Jones, who is always making people mad, always getting into trouble. Imagine right now would it be like people be adding him about Tom Aspinall, calling him a coward, calling him a duck, all this stuff. Like, it's the worst guy you could be confused for because people are so mad at that guy online so often.
I used to get the Seahawks coach quite a bit, like
okay,
after Seahawks would lose, and people be like, "Are you gonna run the ball again, you fucking dickhead?" And I was like, "If I could, I would. I guess I don't fucking know."
Oh, get ready, he's back in the league, Petesy.
Come on, who is he? Who's he with the Raiders?
Yeah.
Come on, Vegas. We're gonna fucking do it. Bring me in, Coach Pete. I'll be your younger something or other. I don't know. He's probably in better shape than me anyway. But listen, he's definitely in better shape than me. Let's just clarify that before we leave the show. Oh, here's the music. Okay, going this time. Music is loud again. Crackheads. We did it. We got 3 intros. 3 intros, 1 show. You only get on 1 place. It's the Craic and Petesy Carroll. Thank you to my beautiful guests. Look at these fucking guys. Look at it. Look at this one over here. Look at this one over here. It's Ben, folks. It's Drake Riggs. There goes the music. The music is gone. But we had a lovely day. Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a lovely weekend. Go Apex. We're still here. It's awkward after I've said goodbye and we're